Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann is being charged with a 7th murder. Prosecutors say Heuermann is responsible for the November 2000 death of Valerie Mack. Mack's remains were found in Manorville and Gilgo Beach, right here in New York, and identified through DNA. In today's court filing, prosecutors laid out that they found articles about the search for the Long Island serial killer at Heuermann's home. Heuermann has pleaded not guilty to this charge and to the murder charges of 6 other women on Long Island. We do want to warn everyone that details in this story are pretty disturbing. I want to bring in ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer, who's joining me now in the studio. Brian, thank you so much. Good to see you. What did prosecutors reveal about their findings today now that they're moving forward with this 7th charge?
So, Stephanie, they found a number of things. You've already listed some of those articles that seem to be somewhat of souvenirs for the alleged suspect in this case. They also found a hair matching the wife and daughter of Rex Heuermann, something that we've seen of another victim as well, how they connect the suspect to the murders. Also, of those 350 electronics that were seized, they found very significant amount of violent bondage pornography that showed also the mutilation of the body that is similar to that of the victim in the case. But of course, they also have this document that was created in 2000 around the time of Valerie Mack's death, where they said he used it as a way of planning out these murders, talking about ropes and cords and saws. And that in one part of it that said DS, which they believe is a dump site, was one of the sites where they actually found some of Valerie Mack's remains. And so they're connecting it all together to say that Rex Heuermann is the Gilgo Beach murderer and that Valerie Mack is one of his alleged victims.
Investigators over the course of just a few months have really been able to put some pieces together. So what evidence does the defense have to push back on this case, if at all?
So, if at all, is definitely the key in this case. If anything, they're pushing back on the DNA. They're saying that the DNA techniques that have been used in this case are not the greatest of techniques that can be used to evaluate or connect an individual to a suspect. And if you can remove that hair follicle, that does take away from the case in some way, shape, or form. And then, of course, just trying to raise reasonable doubt that perhaps this is someone who is interested in the Gilgo Beach murders, as many people in that community were, and might have collected items, not necessarily as souvenirs, but just out of a true crime aficionado or curious about the case.
But then there's the DNA.
Yeah, so the DNA is not necessarily his directly, but that of his wife, and
Right.
They can try to say that the technique in which it was used is not the most efficient one and try to raise doubt in how it was collected rather than the actual results.
So, Brian, the defense is considering whether or not to separate these charges. How would that work? How would that play out?
Yeah, so there are different reasons why Rex Heuermann is connected to one alleged victim or another, and to try to separate them so an individual isn't facing charges for all 7 murder victims. The defense is trying to make it seem like if you can do a few at a time and raise reasonable doubt for some cases rather than throwing all of them at once and someone maybe convicting Rex Heuermann just because of the sheer volume of victims that he's facing, and they're hoping that separating victims based on either the evidence that was collected, where they were found, the time frame in which they were murdered, to say this was Rex Heuermann's first case, second case, and maybe third, maybe a stronger goal for theirs or a stronger argument than doing all cases at once.
Brian Buckmeyer for us here in studio. Thank you so much, Brian. There's so much to unwrap with this case and so much more probably coming forward. Thank you so much.